Okay. Well, we're live on Facebook and YouTube. I'm just waiting for our guest. We had a little bit of a technical problem. She should be here in a second. How's it going, everybody? It's our fourth show of the day. I'm ready to take a break. But let's get through this next show. It should be a good one. It's a friend of Morgan's from back in South Australia. Let's see. Oh, here she comes. All right. All right. So we're going to skip the intro. And Kristen, just be advised that we're already live on YouTube and Facebook and in the Zoom room. So when you come on, anything you say can and will be held against you. Hello.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Oh, you got that South Australian accent going.
I got that South Aussie accent going. Well,
yeah.
see if I can change it to Queen's English.
No, I like it. Keep it going. So yeah, it's nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you, and you're one of Morgan's sisters from Circle of Friends back there in Australia.
Yes.
And you guys have a pretty tight network, as I understand it, over the years. And you've been, like most of them, have been knee deep in all this stuff for so long. When did you wake up?
Well, I'm still waking up, Todd.
There you go.
I'm still waking up, and you know, that's the excitement. I think that when you know, that transition from being asleep to the concept that, you know, everything is me and everything I'm experiencing is because of me. You know, it's a really hard pill to swallow, and it was a really long journey to get to the place that I am now, that you actually start to see the excitement in it. You know, the pain of the journey goes out of it. You know, there's less pain in it. There's always some level of discomfort, because that's where your little indicators are. But, you know, so I'm still waking up.
Yeah, I like that answer. You're the third person in 1,800 episodes that's answered it that way.
Yeah, still waking up, you know.
That's a good answer, especially now. Especially now.
Yeah, totally. You know, I'm pretty relaxed about everything, and that's a really good indicator, I think, of where we're at. Is that when we're forced with the change and the rest of the world's going cray, and we're sitting here pretty calm and pretty excited about the evolution of what's coming and trusting it. It's actually a really nice space to be in, and I'm actually creating forward at this point in time.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This is why we did everything we did. There's no time to start bailing now.
Absolutely, you know, but it's also that place that you arrive at where you actually can trust. There's so much more trust that starts to come in. Doesn't matter what's coming up. It's a great opportunity to see what it is, and to just heal, for want of a better word.
Yeah, and then to start to look at the dynamics of everything that served us up to this point and say, well, what do I need to go forward? Do I still need to play in the pain and the suffering? You know, I mean, this is really like a worldwide global reset.
Oh, totally. That's the exciting bit about it. You know, and those of us that have really, you know, I always say, the more enlightened you become, the more Christ-like you become. You know, we don't need to try and become more empathic. We don't need to try and become kinder. We don't need to try and become more loving. The more of these programs that we can kick out of our vessel, we just naturally become that. So, you know, you look at what the world is doing and you embrace it.
Yeah, we made it up. We wrote a great script. There's no doubt about it.
You know, and I think it's just beautiful, the you know, the dross that rises to the surface during these times, you know.
Yeah.
You get to see right where you're at, and it's I'm all good.
Yeah, it's like all the restaurants here bringing the door-to-door delivery with your
Yeah,
food. In this
totally.
stage of the ascension, it's you don't have to go anywhere. They come looking for you.
Absolutely. No, it's good. But every single day I do the work. Every single day I do the work. I don't have a day off.
No, no, it's a lifestyle. I think that people chose, plenty of people chose a long time ago.
Yep.
And even probably even before that on an unconscious level, I guess we've always kind of known, but it's interesting to see with the contrast of what's happening, individually and, on the global stage.
On the global stage.
Oh, that was,
That was.
oh, do you have a,
Do you have a?
we have an echo now.
Oh, I don't have an echo. Do you have an
don't.
echo? No.
I heard it. It was pretty weird. But I mean, it's interesting with the contrast that's going on between us individually and collectively, out on the global stage, that we would find, really more confidence, I think, because it's so far out there, like this thing that we've all been going through and we've been able to support each other with over the years in these lightworker communities, slowly but surely, didn't really eradicate all the personal questions of, am I crazy? Am I really doing what I'm doing? But the stuff that's gone on worldwide now kind of gives a good backdrop to what the alternative reality is, which obviously is almost laughable. It's like a cartoon.
Look, the thing that I've learned to do, and Morgan would probably laugh at this, is that Morgan and I started doing work with Morgan. God, I lost track of time now, but it's probably, I'd say 10 years, maybe 10 years. And she would have to go into surrogation for me to do work because I couldn't keep my head out of it, and she always used to say, mind your own business.
Yeah, get out of the way.
And that's actually become one of my taglines, not mind your own business, is mind the business of you, because as long as you're committed to cleaning up what I call your vessel, and I have an analogy that I use, which I'll be happy to share with you, but, I've reached a point now where our job is to really sit back and observe. And, I just sit back and observe, and we get to observe ourselves in response to what we believe we're experiencing. It's all perception. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this point in time, I sit back in total trust, and I think that's one of the benefits of having done the work in whatever way you've done it, is that you've been committed to the path of understanding, who am I? What am I doing here? You shift from taking everything personally to just kind of embracing the journey and knowing it's actually not personal. There's a whole lot of stuff going on that, from biology to astrology to, everything's energy.
Yeah.
Everything's energy. And when a lot of my journey has been a very educational one, which was really threw me into my head a lot. And the thing about learning is it stops you from, I don't say learning stops you from feeling, but if you spend all your time with your head in books and you're not spending time being present, you're actually avoiding being in the present moment. And you can't access what you're not willing to feel. And it's in the feeling that we actually discover what's going on. When you sit into the feeling of something, it will reveal what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a memory from the past. I mean, everything's just a repeat from our past. So my work now, my own personal, the way I look at it is, my work is just to clean up those grains of silt that are in my water, in my vessel. They're the little I give the analogy, if you don't mind me sharing, is you've got two beacons of water. One beacon has clear water in it and the other is murky. So what makes the water murky? It's the grains of silt. And those grains of silt are all your programs, All of your programs, all your beliefs, all your indoctrinations, from cultural to spiritual to life experience. And most of those grains of silt get put in there in the first 7 years of your life. It's the last trimester, first 7 years of your life. So you actually come in already with grains of silt in your beacon of water. So your water's already a little bit murky. And then as we go through that first 7 years of life, our water literally gets filled up with these grains of silt. And then people look and they say, okay, well, you know, at this stage of unconsciousness, you don't realise that you're the vessel and you're inside the vessel and you're looking out into the world and all you can see is your own murkiness. But you're looking out there thinking that the world is murky. Does that make sense? So
of course.
then when you come to understand that as soon as you start to own that it is your vessel, you're the one looking out and that's the filter. It's like the lint sitting over the lens. And we think everybody out there, and this is how it is the mirror. Everything is a reflection of us. And then as we start to clean out our waters, we do the work. We own that everything is ours. And whenever something comes up, we use whatever technique we use. You know, Morgan has a zero pointing, this Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I use Psych K as part of my technique that I do. And your work is just clean the vessel.
Yeah.
Because as you remove those grains of silt, your waters become clear. You become clearer. And then you think about a pond, and the pond, if the water's murky, the light can't shine down to the bottom of the pond, so nothing can grow. Nothing can flourish. So as you clean out, your waters become clearer and cleaner, and you become more loving, you become more empathic, you become more forgiving, you become more reverent, you become more present. Does that make sense? And the light can come in.
Yeah.
But interestingly, when you have clearer waters and you come across somebody that has murky waters, the person with the clear waters can see the murkiness. They recognise it. They're not in judgment of it, they just recognise it. But the person with murky water can't see the person with the clear water. It's how you turn a sinner into a saint and a saint into a sinner.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the intelligence I give to people who are not at a level of awakening. It's just it's a two-dimensional perspective. Every single one of those grains of silt is a magnet.
Yes.
And
then there's the other side of the coin, which is if I'm a clear vessel that I'm, you know, moving around in, and I come across a murky vessel, I'm looking at a murky vessel, and murky vessels in my field. What's murky in me that I'm not seeing? You know,
absolutely.
I think, you know, it's so interesting too, because most of these basic tenets of what people call spirituality, you know, whatever you want to call it, they're in all the sacred books. It's in a lot of the some of the, you know, I'd say the psychology of the last couple hundred years, philosophies. But what's the real work? You know, it's like that. I love what you said about the murky, you know, the silt in the glass, because it's weird, because how do you know if you're a murky vessel if you're on the inside looking out? So we now step out. Yeah, we step out and look in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and this, you know, because a lot of people think, oh, poof, woo woo, it's done. You know, no. I'm looking at the vessel from the outside looking in, which has got to be what, my higher self, something. I'm looking at the vessel and I'm observing the vessel. What does that look like? It looks like, why did I say that? Why do I say those things? Why does my body go into that contraction when this certain energy is in front of me, or that certain energy is, or something's said to me, and it's like this whole, it's almost like a split, you know, a split of your psyche. But it's where the gold is. No doubt.
Totally. It's whatever, you know, I had this conversation with Morgan, I think last time she was home, and I said, you know, when you look at the murky vessel, you can recognize things in the vessel that you once were. And when you see it, you're not having an emotional response to it. There is no physical response. It is merely a recognition of, that's how I used to be. You recognize it in yourself. But then there is you're getting some kind of feedback from it. That's a good indicator that you have that in you.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. The fact that you're even witnessing it, you've even got somebody in your field that's even having a conversation that's not even relevant to you or your life. You can't be having that experience with that person unless on some level something in you is on the same vibrational frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beautiful thing, is that once you've reached that state of personal responsibility and a level of awareness, you just own it all as your own and you just claim it.
Yeah.
And that's that transition from it's all about me and me feeling okay to I actually want to impact the globe.
Well, I think where people are challenged today due to recent events is they're challenged with this, whether it's propaganda or not, they're challenged with the global disclosure, with all these things that have been in the alternate news and what people might call conspiracy or disclosure channels, and not being able to demagnetize themselves from one polarity or the other, which is kind of interesting because we think of shadow and we think of the grime and the grit and the forgotten memories and the things we don't want to talk about. But this is bigger because we've placed so much emphasis on our external experience together as our reality that we're having to let go of the most atrocious, horrific possibilities in terms of it being separate from ourselves. It's a really powerful transition this year, and it only seems to be moving faster.
Yeah, and I think that's where we have to use our will. We get given free will. Everything is energy. We know that whatever we get drawn to is a reflection of us, but there's got to be a point where we actually make a conscious choice about what we're going to tune into, Todd. I have adopted the habit of, okay, I'll give you this analogy, and I gave it to Morgan the other day, is that when Mother Teresa was asked to march against war, she said, I won't march against war, but if you hold a peace rally, I'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
It's understanding, it's that thing that wherever attention goes, energy flows. The worst thing we can do is try and resist something if we get it and it's uncomfortable. If you see it and you feel drawn to watch it, but own it and then clear it. But don't keep tuning in. That's the discipline. Don't keep tuning in.
Well,
Be
I guess if you keep tuning in, then you haven't owned it.
That's correct. Or for me, I've made a conscious choice. I want to be more of what I want to see of in the world.
Yes.
So things come in, you get awareness, you get a vibrational reaction to it. It'll be an aversion of some kind. Own it, clean it, then go focus more on being more of what you want to see of in the world.
And how do you know if you've owned it, and how do you go about owning it?
How do you go about, well, if you feel, so for me, as an example, I just continuously clean whatever comes into that I recognise and acknowledge. And even actually need to recognise it, just acknowledge it. Something comes in and I see it, I have conscious awareness of it, but I've done the work to train myself to be able to see things now that it just naturally happens. Comes in, if I even acknowledge it on some level, it's there to be cleaned. But my intention going into the day is to do work in the create forward. So I could sit and be watching TV, to tune in every single day, to see what's happening with the coronavirus. That's actually a conscious choice.
Mm-hmm. True.
Or I make a conscious choice to tune out of it, because the more you tune out of it, the more you remove yourself vibrationally from it.
Yeah. Post acceptance, right? I mean, once you accept it.
we actually have a conscious choice. Now, some people, if you don't feel like you have a conscious choice around it, where, you know, it's not, I'm not talking addictions, but it is like that pull.
Sure it is.
Then there's something in you that's chasing the feeling that you get from it.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, what is the feeling that this gives me? Because it's not the story. And this is the importance of really being present with yourself and sitting with the feeling, is because what is this feeling that this gives me? Because that's just history repeating itself. It's just a memory from the past. It's one of your grains of silt.
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
you might not see anything wrong with it, but the point is you're chasing a feeling. Everything that we think we want, Todd, is because of how we think it's going to make us feel. Everything. And people go, well, that's ridiculous. I actually have to make pragmatic choices around things in my life. I don't do that because it's going to feel good. Yeah, but you're still doing it because you're trying to get a gain, an outcome of some kind that's chasing a feeling. It might not even be a supportive one. Does that make sense? So if if you've got a feeling, and this is the key, this is where you find the goal, is you've got to sit in the feeling and you've got to ask yourself, how does this make me feel? And it doesn't even need to be a match to what you experienced in your past. I'll give you an example. So having financial security for me has been a really big journey, because I grew up in a home where we were groomed for poverty mindset. Everything was around poverty, a poverty mindset. And I was driving along, you know, it probably was last year sometime, and you know, I was going through a bit of a transition with my finances, and it made me feel a little bit uneasy. And I stopped, and instead of going to the story of the finances, I went, what am I actually feeling? What is this representing to me? It's actually representing struggle. Mm-hmm. It was just showing me this thing of, what does it represent to me? It represented struggle. And I went, okay, well, where did I have struggle in my life? I struggled all through my youth, all through being a teenager, all through being a child. So there is the addiction to the emotion of struggle. It was just playing out by finances.
It's like your comfort zone.
Well, we have addictions to all of those little grains of silt, you know, and some have a greater pull than others, but it's just being able to pay attention and say, really, instead of going into the story and trying to fix the cluster, is what is the residual feeling I'm actually left with here? And where else did I experience that in my life? There were some big ones too. And then you do whatever. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, or I accept, allow, honour, value, trust, you know, give love. It is a program. You don't even need to know where it's come from, how, as Morgan would say, mind your business. Mm-hmm. Mind your business. Consciously surrender it. And it is about that intention of just, you know, doing the work. And when you do the work and all those grains of silt go, who's to say what you're going to get? Mm-hmm. You just trust. And would you say that 2020 on a personal level, I mean, it's been obviously a very unique and different year so far, and it's only, what, 3.5 months? Would you say that there's been deeper and deeper levels for you in terms of the depth of your shadows and integrating things that you may not have known about this year? No. I actually feel like 2020 for me is like it's my coming out party. I have to say, leading into the end of 2019, I would have to say, honestly, that it felt like one of my darkest points. 2019? End of 2019, with everything that I knew, I felt like I was in a really fear. It was just total fear. Now, you were that way through 2019 or by the end of it? at the end of 2019, I moved house. It brought all sorts of stuff up for me, but I will share this with you on a very practical level for the ladies out there listening. Is that I'm somebody that's very attuned into my body. You know, all of my life, really, for most of my career, has been to do with the human body, and then I transitioned into the human mind from, you know, and then trying to find awakening, you know, being in such pain, and then being introduced to this concept of, well, you know, it's actually your past and it's you that's creating that. And then what was I going to say around that? Lost my train of thought. Oh, so getting to the end of 2019, knowing everything that I knew, I'd always gone and got my hormones checked on. And I remember after I had my son, I literally, you know, this is this thing when you know how to nut your stuff out. Whether it be intellectually or spiritually, you got every tool you need, but you're still in a slump, and you start to go, why is it that every single day I'm having to manage my mind? Why is it every single day I'm having to do such deep levels of work because of all of that shadow stuff coming up? And then I said, okay, when's the last time I had my hormones checked? And bang, there we go. So there is this very tangible thing around, you can spend all your time thinking it's spiritual, but your body, the animal, is out of balance hormonally. So I went and got some like a natural hormone replacement, like a cream, and within 2 weeks I was back. So I wanted to share that because, you know, I'm very much about the spiritual, but also too, you know, all of my study, when you start picking into my brains, I'm very, very much now also too understanding the science behind the animal. We are a physical being. The physical being has biological processes that are not necessarily spiritual. It's all part of the whole. Yeah. So when you understand how the animal works, I just wanted to share that with you because, you know, I'm 50. I have a lot of friends who are a very similar age, slightly younger, slightly older. And, you know, there's some of them that are really awakened, and then they find themselves going into these slumps that are just out of character. And I go, you know what, just go get your hormones checked.
Yeah, I believe it. That's part of it, is utilizing everything at your disposal. No doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to.
Somebody wants to know what it's called, the remedy.
It is. Well, I just went along to a doctor who's a hormone specialist, and they take a blood test. Blood tests are not. Your hormones are constantly changing. Every single day, your hormones will be different based on how much stress, how much sleep, lack of sleep, what your nutrition is. Those things affect your hormones, but getting a blood test gives you a good snapshot of approximately where your parameters are. And I know progesterone, for me, when that's down, I feel a bit crackers in the head.
Then there's
I don't affect the world with it because I own it and do my work, but you get tired of constantly having to do this, spending time in what feels like shadows constantly to go, this is actually not normal. And if you reach that point where you say, this is not normal, it's been going on for too long now, go see somebody that specializes in hormones. I use a cream, but I've also in the past used troches, which sit under your tongue. But it's just take that out of the equation. If you're more mature, take it out of the equation, go get yourself checked. Within 2 weeks, I felt back to normal.
Yeah, there's many ways, as Morgan says, up the mountain, right? And then there's the school of thought too that well, I mean, I would have to say it's factual, maybe not to everybody, that the carbon-based body's converting to a light body. What kind of ramifications go with that, you know, in terms of our organs, our skeletal, muscular, you know, all of our different systems within our body, nervous system. A lot of people, you know, having ascension symptoms and ringing in the ears and, all this other stuff going on. People thinking they're having a heart attack. People thinking they're dying. So it's a mixed bag. But yeah, I'm a big believer in, at least, if it's created, if there's something created to help neutralize a situation, then it'd be in our best interest to take a look at that and anything else that might help us.
Yeah, look, the thing is, we don't know what we don't know. And I'm someone that always stays open and curious. I've learned to do that. Throughout my journey, Todd, I went from being completely asleep. That was 20 years ago now, over 20 years, and being in a world of pain, not understanding what was happening, and began my journey of discovery and exploration to try and understand why my life was looking the way it was looking, and to understand the other people around me, still coming from this place of victim. And then going from different modalities, from doing inner child work to, metaphysics, and then Christianity and more of the spiritual side, and having done so many different programs that it's all the same information, just delivered differently. But there was always parts of it that didn't, it's great information, and I really kind of feel in your vibe, but there's something missing. There's something here not quite right. Like with Christianity, I mean, I love Christ energy. I'm a big fan of Christ energy. But the religious model to me is, why have I got to get to God through Jesus? Do you know? That never made sense to me. And you got all of these people congregating together that presumably are connected to Christ and God, but you're all still suffering. Something's missing here, So I would just transition very organically through my journey until I sort of found the click. It kind of clicks in. But what I have learned is that I'm always asking a bigger question.
Yeah.
I'll go along my journey, and then I'll kind of reach a point and say, why is it going to be that way? I mean, my 20-year journey was a bloody hard one, Todd. Like, I'm blessed that God gave me a strong body to get up the mountain the way that I did, because it was so hard and painful. And then I say, why does this thing of personal growth and personal development, why is it got to be so hard? Maybe this is the old way of doing it. Maybe there's a new way.
That's what I say. That's how I feel about where we're at now. Maybe not exactly where we're at now, but what we're on the precipice of, which is we don't have to go through these fluctuations anymore. We don't have to go through. We can, but I think at some point very quickly, because of our expanded collective and personal consciousness, it's going to be basically our higher self tapping us on the shoulder and saying, hey, you don't got to do that anymore. I think we've moved into full-blown 5D. And I think it's just what you're talking about, if there's questions continuing to be asked along the line, you've got nowhere to go but expansion. And it's when we stop asking questions that things start to plateau. Yeah,
and I think that as more of the planet is waking up, when I ask that question, there's got to be an easier way or a quicker way. And in came a technique that I do called Psych K, PSYCH-K. And it's based in science, but still spiritual. It totally works in alignment with the principles of nature, which I love. But our physiology, the animal, is part of that, right? And so it works on bringing you into a whole brain state. But the point with it is that your transition from those grains of silt, which are just beliefs, that turn into identities. So we're full of identities. Is that the minute all you need to do, you don't need to go back into your past. You just need to look at what you're experiencing now and work exactly with what's right in front of you right now. And, the work I do with Psych K is, well, what are you experiencing now that you want to change? And let's change it right here and now. Let's actually dissolve that old belief and let's embed a new one based on what you consciously know you want now.
Yeah.
I mean, we have lived life with such contrast that we're very clear on what we want. I mean, if I was to ask you, what do you want? You would know because you've lived life.
Mm-hmm.
But when we have these old, outdated programs in our vessel that are running at the level of the subconscious mind, they're 1,000,000 times more powerful than your conscious awareness and belief now. You have conscious awareness, but you have an old, outdated program that is 1,000,000 times more powerful. That's where the pain is. It's this discord between an old program playing out that you have an addiction to that you're not even really aware of, but you consciously know that I actually don't want to live that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't want that. I've got this thing that keeps dragging me. Well, I had to do so much work, reading, there's many ways to actually change that, but there's a certain level of discipline and discomfort and time that goes to actually get rid of those. I mean, there's people that'll be listening now going, oh, well, you just nuke it like that. Well, you know that now.
Mm-hmm.
Once upon a time, there was a process, whereas, with the Psych K stuff now, it's just, let's just change it now. And there's no pain and there's no suffering. And this is the thing is for me, I love the idea of a kinder world.
Yeah.
Kinder, more empathic, but just
everybody has a smile on their face.
Yeah, just a harmonious, kinder planet. And so as part of that, why can't we, those of us that are healers, we're not the healers, we just facilitate it. Why can't it just be a gentle transition? It's a kind of transition. That's what I love about the work I do now is I've done the hard yards, asked the bigger question, in came a solution. Now it's even for post-traumatic stress disorder type. Post-traumatic stress with the work I do with the Psych K, it's just a memory. They're just causing stress in the body. You dissolve that original memory, but you don't need to go back into your past.
Do you think people are responding differently now in 2020, like your clients? I mean, if somebody came, let's just say 2-3 years ago, and there was a pattern identified, the addiction was identified, do you want to dissolve it? Yes, I do. And you do what you do, and then they go about their business and go about their life, and 2 months later, 3 months later, the same loops are playing again in their life. Do you think something shifted collectively? Do you think that is there anything you're seeing in your clients where people are responding and empowering themselves and leaving the session and continuing the work, so to speak?
Look, the work that I do with most people, they're not actually at a level of consciousness that I am. So I give them that very brief, two-dimensional drawing of the beacon. It's just giving them a really quick snapshot to help people start to step into this place of personal responsibility. But the way that I do it also too is to give it more of a pragmatic viewpoint. Hey, you know what? Yeah, you are spiritual, but you're also a biological being. This is what's happening. You've got these 2 beacons of water. You've got murky water here. They're just your programs. You got them before age 7. There's nothing here you actually need to take personally. You're very conscious and aware. You're very wise and very evolved because you've lived life in the contrast to know exactly what you want now. That's the intelligent self. We just need to shift these things here, but I try and shift people out of, because we take our stuff very, very personally. When we haven't transitioned to this level of awareness, we take a lot of our stuff personally. Now, we need to take personal responsibility for it, but we don't need to get so upset about stuff. It's very easy. It's just a grain of silt. Let's kick it out. So even me now, 20 years on, being able to condense down everything I've learned into a very quick sort of 5 or 10 minute explanation and then do the work to kick it out And people that have had post-traumatic stress disorder, the first thing you do is you dissolve that stress, that perception of stress in the subconscious mind. And now they can be present with the event. They're not actually emotionally charged and running out of the event. So when you start to realize that everything you kick out, you are doing your work for the planet. This is what I say to people. Every time you kick something out of your vessel, you are cleaning your water. You have just vibrationally shifted the vibration of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've gotten rid of a low vibration, program. You've transformed that, you've neutralized it, and you've replaced it with something really positive. So when you get back to this very simple equation of everything's energy, it's somewhere between, I say you've got fear that's very low vibration, you've got love that's very high vibration. Every emotion in between that is a version somewhere between low vibration and high vibration. So my work, which I take very personally, is the more work I do on my vessel, the higher my vibration is going to be. Yeah. So vibrationally, I'm shifting the vibration of the planet. And I think, getting back to your question, more and more and more and more people are doing that when people do step into this path of awakening, it's happening faster.
Yes.
It's happening so much faster. We've got momentum.
And there are a lot of people asking questions. More and more people are asking more and more questions every day, to include people that have been doing work on themselves for years. And one of the things that we all kind of have in common is we all have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 Achilles heels. You know, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, we can call them addictions, codependent, toxic relationships. We can call it drugs. We can call it sex, rock and roll, whatever the case is. Yeah. What's the difference between dissolving a pattern rooted and anchored by a serious, obvious addiction versus other types of things that we dissolve?
Yeah, so some have their claws into us more than others. Is that what you're saying?
Everybody has it. I used to say when I was on the streets, everybody has their Jesus, you know. But you know, you can look at the other end of it. Everybody has their devil. I mean, everybody has 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 demons, whether they were ancestral, whether they were developed when they were younger, whether they were embedded deeper in their young adult years. I mean, we all have these. Everybody's pain's proportionate. Everybody's pain's the same, proportionate to their life experience. So everybody's got these. But these are the things that we tend to hold on to, that are the hardest to let go. And obviously when we do, there's a huge transformational energy that occurs as a consequence. But is there something different about the deep ones?
Well, I think, there is a definite difference in the sense of how we feel about them. And it is our, if you listen to Byron Katie, it's about being present with what is. Mm. And it is our attachment to the wrongness of it. Mm. Rather than accepting it. So, what I had to learn to do, after years and years and years of study and knowledge, and, I was trying to intellectually get my way up this spiritual mountain, is that I did a program, and it forced me to feel. I had to really sit in feeling. And the more that you can practice doing that, is that when you get that urge, you sit in the feeling of it. And a lot of that feeling is the resistance to the what is.
Yeah.
It's the resistance to the what is. And when you understand secondary gains as well, is that the reason why you hang on to it is because there is the perception or the fear of a loss. Mm-hmm. So the work I do with Psych K is, we look at that so that you look and say, well, somewhere running is a perception of a loss. If I give up this, then I'll also have to give up this. So I'll give you an example, somebody that has an eating disorder. And, you know, they have this, you know, they constantly like to eat, and they are in resistance to the fact, they're saying, I shouldn't be eating this. I shouldn't be doing all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everything's energy. So you're, by default, you're putting negative energy into your body. That's another whole discussion. But you are telling yourself you shouldn't be doing, but there's a part of you that freaking loves whatever it is. It might be alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
You might actually really love a drink. And it might feed your soul. There's times where I have a drink and I have it exactly the same, and it feeds my soul. I freaking love it. Right? So it's about when you get into this habit, because you've got to remember that the alcoholic is an identity. It is an identity that's playing out. But you're in resistance to it. So I said to a lady recently, you know, with something, she said, I sit by the, you know, I have this thing that I watch Netflix, and whenever I watch Netflix, I have to eat something. I have to eat junk food. And so I've got into this habit of it, and I like it to be fried food. Or it wasn't even that, it was takeaway. I like to have a takeaway while I said, well, stop saying you can't have it.
Yeah.
Stop saying you can't have it. But just the minute you say you stop saying I can't have it, you become more present with what is. It's like the defiant child. You can't have it, so what do you want to do? We have the defiant child in all of us. So people that go on a diet, they actually restrict themselves from things that they actually love to have. Pick out the thing that you really love to have and allow yourself to have it. Allow yourself to have it. Eat clean all around the rest of the time, but stop saying you can't have it. When people go on a diet, everything they love has to go out. Don't do that. Because you have a perception of loss. You're actually having to say goodbye to something that you innately love. And it creates suffering in you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So part of that process of unraveling an addiction is to become present with what is you've got so much resistance going on. So the work I do with Psych K is you will have stress around having to give up alcohol, or you will have stress around having to give up that drug. Now, you've got to remember that you've made the animal addicted to it as well. So you've got this physiological process. Say to anybody, anytime you have rehearsed something over and over and over and then you change your mind, your body, which loves you so much, has this defense mechanism where straight up your central nervous system, it will run a message and it will be like a red light going, we don't do this. We pig out, or we drink alcohol, or we do drugs. I'm here as your servant. The body is the servant of the mind, and I'm here to just be obedient to you. And you told me that we do drugs, and you told me we do alcohol, and you told me we overeat. And it will send a message. So you've always got that period of time where your body is literally going to try and put you to sleep, back into a trance, and automatically doing what you've always done. So there's always that period of time where we have to be awake. But if you can be doing work, the work I do is in the subconscious mind. We're changing the belief. We're looking at what are the secondary gains that you're getting? What are you afraid of losing? And when there's an identity that's played out for many, many, many years, Todd, it's fear of loss of the identity.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not this, then what? If I don't have my pain, if I don't have my suffering, who am I? Who am I without these rehearsed identities that have emotional charge to them?
Yeah.
So the work I do is we can explore that, and then you get to have both. You get to see how I can have the cake and lose weight.
You can have your cake and eat it too.
You can have your cake and you can eat it, but you just have to be able to reach a place where you're more consciously choosing. You're not on unconscious autopilot.
Yeah, so much of it is really our self-programming.
I hope I didn't pop your peanut there with too much
No, you didn't
too
pop my
much
peanut.
biological.
No,
But these, but this is the importance of understanding how the animal works too, Todd.
yeah.
We're a biological being, and there's shit that's outside of our control.
Well, I mean, we've managed to take in all kinds of, nanometals and fluoride and, all that stuff. And, it's kind of like breathing. The body breathes. We don't tell it to breathe. The heart beats, the blood flows. There's an aspect of, there's an aspect of us that's looks physical, but it's more than physical. And, it's been able to endure and transform and adapt and modify. But now we're at this place where the type of work that you've been doing for years and many people is starting to really bring some just rewards as we clear these energetic blockages and constrictions. It's opening up a whole new world. There's new energy flowing, and there's not even words you can put to it, and it's happening very rapidly. Even though the world's on lockdown, everybody's there's an energy of self-exploration and growth.
And I think that, we're going to get great expansion at this time because the world is quietened, it's silenced.
Yeah.
So all of that, when it's all, everything's energy. And so the craziness, this just autopilot craziness. I mean, I don't know about you, but it's just the energy is clearer. I just think it's a beautiful space for those of us that are doing work. And I just want to acknowledge this, Todd, is so much incredible gratitude for, every single person out there that is a physical being a light worker in whatever it is that you do. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is that you do, that your heart and your time and your mind is for the evolution of this time, space, reality. Yeah. That there's so many of us in whatever it is, our modality that we do, is that we're cleaning our vessel. Yeah. We're cleaning our vessel, and we're doing it from a place of very, very pure intention and genuine love for humanity.
Well, the soul sensitivity is at an all-time high, so we know when we do something.
It's such a beautiful, beautiful time to be living in, and I'm just, I'm about creating heaven on earth now, for want of a better word.
Yes.
But you want to project into the future and think about what the work that all of us are doing now, what that means for the next generation coming through. I mean, who's to say? I mean, that's not really our business, is it? But
no, they probably got more to offer us than we do them. Not that we don't have a lot of valuable stuff to offer them. Is there anything that, like, from this point forward, before we get out of here, I mean, is there something that you can offer through your years of experience, just from your own vantage point, that you can offer, people advice, rules of the road, based on where we're at and, to the best of your knowledge, where we're going?
Yeah, and look, all I can ever do is share from my journey and my place of knowledge and experience. And that will resonate with some people and not with others, but that's all I got. I am who I am, and committed to the journey. I think, if anything that I'm talking about resonates with people, they can jump onto my Kristen McKenzie coaching. I've got a Facebook and Insta page. If you go onto my Facebook page and have a look at the About Me on Kristen McKenzie Coaching, it gives a much clearer perspective on a snapshot of my journey, and then also too what I can do to help facilitate change now. I'm about results. For me, it is about how can we get you from where you are now to where you'd rather be in the shortest time possible, and without discomfort. Yeah. And so, like I said, this beautiful, gentle technique of Psych-K, which is for fast mindset change. It's literally taking those little beacons of sand and changing them. We know that something's in there that's not serving you. Well, you don't even need to spend time going down the road with that. We can just change it like that.
Mm.
You still have to do action. So I can do that work remotely like this. I can go into surrogation. It's the technique is done with muscle testing. The thing that I love about Psych K is that you cannot hack the system. If there is anything that you want to balance for that is not safe or appropriate now, the muscle testing will say it's not safe and appropriate.
Yeah.
So there's a gatekeeper. It's your higher self is the gatekeeper. So it's very, very pure in that way. But it's really just get in contact with me. If there's anything that we've talked about today that you would like to know more about, I'd be more than happy to share it. If you feel like there's something I can help you with the Psych K, or you want to know more about Psych K, just Google it. You know, there's stuff on YouTube. So you get a feel for whether it feels right for you. It's a very integral technique, which I love. Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's a cell biologist, he wrote a book called The Biology of Belief.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks biologically how our world becomes a reflection. So it gives you more of a pragmatic view, but he's got loads of stuff up there.
Right on.
You know,
Well, be sure.
Talks name, but you can get in contact with me via my Facebook page, and I can do a Psych K session remotely if anyone's interested.
Right on. And be sure and put your links. I'd put them on the live that's on my page, and then also on YouTube, Soldier One Studios channel. We got quite a few viewers there. You might want to go into the comments and put your links there, and any explanation or any text that you think would be appropriate. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing space with us and honoring us with your presence. And hope to meet you. I'm sure I'll meet you when I get to get down there to Australia.
Look, I just want to say this too, you know, is I freaking love Americans. I love America. You know, I had this conversation with Morgan the other day, is that, you know, I don't know what it is. I know there's a lot of stuff going on there right now, but there's something about America. I literally, the wheels of the plane will touch down and I feel like I'm home.
Yeah.
I got friends all over, and I haven't been to the US for 12 months. I've been too busy working. Hasn't been my time, but I tell you, I am chewing at the bit to get back.
I think there's going to be a lot of traveling once some of this energetic, these cloudy energies clear up. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of traveling by other means than we've been used to. But that's just my personal.
So good chance I'll be seeing you in the US before you get to Australia. But
yeah, one way or the other. You take care. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
thank you everybody for coming in today. We'll see y'all tomorrow.